This is Canon Fodder, episode 38. We are live from Mars, and back with me again is our resident science fiction nerd, John Cinder. Johnny, how we doing?
Really good, buddy. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. And you're not. I've had a bunch of people on to do science fiction, so I don't really love that intro, but I wanted to get a small dig in.
Yeah, I get it. You have to add some color to that robotic intro you do. Like
I'm trying to be laconic.
I considered DMing you, being like, "Hey, man, do you want me to do an intro?" But I know you'd say no. Plus, I'm really getting bored of intros. I love just
That's
right in.
There's only maybe like one or two intros that I actually like. Jay Burden's probably being the one that comes top of mind. Everything else, I'm just like, no, this sucks. Oh, actually, no. Isaac Simpson over at the Carousel, he has a pretty good intro. Yeah, that's really about it. But I really like Tim Dillon, and he just kind of goes into it. And with this, I'm like, well, I've already done this for 37 episodes. I might as well just keep this standard format and then let my personality shine after. But we're not here to talk about the theory and praxis around a good podcast intro. We're here to talk about Ray Bradbury's The Martian Chronicles. So, John, what's your relationship with this book? What's your how'd you figure out this one? I know when we did Day of the Triffids a few episodes back, you'd had that Wyndham book for a long time. When did you get into Bradbury?
So I was forced, like many of our contemporaries, I was forced to read Fahrenheit 451 when I was 14. And there were aspects of it I really liked, like the mechanical hound and how he described that and fleeing from that. And I hated the book because I was forced to read it. But when I really spent time dealing with it, I found that I really wanted to read more of that sort of thing. So obviously, this being even more fanciful than a futuristic dystopian society, this seemed like right up my alley, and it certainly was. So I think I was around 14, 15 when I found this, and man, I was just floored. And after my reading of it today, I'm floored again for all sorts of different reasons. This goes to literature being timeless. So I read a little of the backstory, and this was commissioned in either 48 or 49, and they gave him a check for $1,500, which paid rent for 2 years where he and his wife were living. And I did the calculations, and in today's dollars, that would be $19,700.
Damn. That's a good chunk of change. I don't know if I'd be able to pay my mortgage for 2 years with that, but that's consequence of living in Joe Biden's America, right?
Uncle Joe, most president of all time. But I've just for years I've taken this with me. It was actually suggested as I was looking for Bradbury by a friend, and I've never been that far away from Martian Chronicles just because of how interesting it's structured. They're all related short stories in that it's Mars. And I have, in the book that I take with me everywhere, was published in 1963. So this was originally published in 1950. And I had found a later version that they'd revamped, I think, in like the early 90s.
Yeah, they did one in 97 because the original plot line was supposed to be in 99.
Right. So they had changed all the dates. So the 1963 book ends in 2026, like 2 years from now. And they had changed it to everything where it ended in 2056, which I thought was lame. And they also took out the short story Way in the Middle of the Air. What copy do you have?
Mine is it's a pretty recent one. I think it's the one that is from 97. It's a short, like sort of bantam paperback.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing special, but definitely a more recent printing.
Do you have Way in the Middle of the Air in yours?
Actually, I don't have it in front of me.
Okay. And the story is basically just all about the disbelief of the prospect of magic Americans being able to get to and live on Mars.
That's right. Yeah, they're escaping racism. They're escaping racism, and all the whites are super pissed that they're leaving. It's like, hey, where are you going? Who do you think you are going to Mars and getting out? Who are we gonna hate if you're gone? Which is, just such a liberal way of thinking about race relations, especially in the Jim Crow South.
Yeah, and it's it's just I don't know where Bradbury stands. I have to imagine that they're all the 1940s, 50s shit lib, which is nowadays not really that left, but they still have these conventions of dislike of conservatism,
Mm-hmm.
or just the old-fashioned stuff that they saw, which you could say is correct. You could.
We are an anti-racist podcast. We don't believe in racism.
Yeah, it's not enough though to be an anti-racist podcast. We need to be an actively anti-racist podcast.
Ah, yes, that's right. I need to genuflect at the golden casket of St. George.
There you are.
So yeah, the Martian Chronicles is a collection of short stories about Mars.
Specifically, the colonization of Mars.
Yes,
and
the colonization of Mars, and the ethnic cleansing of the native Martian population.
Yeah, which is really beautifully done. I thought it was interesting just how he describes the Martians of being brown skin with yellow eyes and mostly communicating via telepathy.
Mm.
But it's never like so much. And this is something that I took away, so I'm going to dive into my broad talking points right away.
Sure.
That this science fiction that he does it's almost not self-aware at all. Like nowadays, a lot of the science fiction that I read is they're always doing a thing and they never stray very far from like the shock of the thing that they're doing. Whereas,
hey, I resemble that remark.
Whereas in this piece, like there's a couple stories that are functionally like Three Stooges slapstick skits set on Mars with Martians, and it factors in some of their Martian conventions without beating you over the head with "You're on Mars. Can you believe everything is so weird
dude,
on
we're
Mars?"
on Mars.
Yeah, no, I mean,
here's me on Mars.
Yeah, here's me and my two stupid friends on Mars, and we're trying to. It's who's on first, but it's on Mars. Inventing new bits.
Who's on Mars?
Yeah, which I found is really helpful for my imagination when I picture them on Mars, because I'm not doing any of the heavy lifting of imagining or processing descriptive words, descriptive prose. I have like the basic building blocks of how I imagine these characters in their houses, but what I'm imagining is action, and I just don't get this anymore, and I forget how good this is sometimes, and why I bring this book almost everywhere I go as like a toilet reader or a bedtime reader, which is what I aspire to write. Anything that I do in art, I want you to be able to put in your bathroom.
Right. It needs to be on the top of the
pedestal.
I guess it's a pedestal. The thing that
the
on top deck? Of the tank. The tank, yeah.
The tank. There you go.
Yeah, the tank cover. Right. Yeah, we're akin with the working man here. We understand terms like.
You want your stuff to be in use, right?
Right.
And this, for me, has always been in use. And I know Brad. I think he passed away. Who knows? Maybe.
Yeah, he's definitely dead.
Well, you never know, but. There are a couple stories in here that go towards kind of his tacky horror, like his Carnival House horror sensibilities. Which
there is a Carnival House horror short story here that is just so out of left field.
Right, and it's like the longest one too. Mm-hmm. It's the longest and most intricate of the short stories.
It'd be really funny if he needed to pad. So he was like, "All right, I'm going to take this one short story that I've just been sitting on for forever, and I'm just going to change a few words, and it's on Mars."
Yeah, and it's very in the vein of if you've ever read Something Wicked, This Way Comes, or I mentioned Dandelion Wine in one of our previous recordings, and it's just very, again, that 1920s, 30s kind of tacky carnival horror house.
Wait, hold on. It's actually, because I've got Wikipedia open here. Apparently, it was first published as Carnival of Madness. Oh my goodness! And now it's called Usher.
Yeah, and I mean, okay, so if you're listening to this recording and you haven't read Martian Chronicles. Go read it.
Go read it, definitely.
Pause it and go read it.
Oh,
Having
that's
said
so
that,
funny.
this story is about a crazy millionaire from Earth coming to Mars so he can build the House of Usher, so he can murder everyone and replace them with robots.
I wonder when were the crimes of H. Holmes discovered?
I have no idea.
Because I wonder if he was inspired by that at all.
I have no
Because
base.
he had
This is the first time hearing about it.
so during the 1900s World's Fair in Chicago, this dude H. Holmes, he redesigned this old house, and he creates like caverns and like you would think it's like a Scooby-Doo house, right?
Right.
Except and then because people are in for the fair, he like rents rooms to them and he murders them.
Yeah, this is like probably page for page, just drawing from that, because that's exactly what this guy does. But he's murdering, he's murdering everyone from like the Martian censorship board, like the morality police. He's essentially just killing them and then replacing them with robots, and then using those robots to lure in the next agent of the censorship regime.
Oh man, that's so it's really funny that oh man, he just had nowhere else to put these. Like, fuck it, we're doing this on Mars. Oh, that's great.
It's on Mars, and it sticks out like a sore thumb to anyone who understands like the thematic push.
It really doesn't fit. It's
Right.
it's so odd to be put in there. But like, I guess you never heard of Kill Your Darlings.
Well, and I'm sure they like this is a trend that I'm sure has been going along for a long time. But they page count, right? It's like they want the book to have a heft, and that's so much of like, especially the nonfiction that I read nowadays, is so redundant, and they just say the same things over and over again in different ways, and then they explain things too deep, and just the plague of context that we're experiencing right now, I think, is just word count.
It's fine. I haven't read a nonfiction book in a minute. I usually oscillate between the two, where I'll do nonfiction for a while, and then I'll only pick up fiction, and back and forth and back and forth. I've been reading a lot of religious scholars lately for fun, but yeah, especially I've read like 3 self-help books in the course of my lifetime, and you can really did you read Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life?
No, I mean, I've looked up the list. Okay,
yeah, you've read it, you got it. Like,
yeah, that's what I
like,
considered.
okay, I got the 12 rules, cool, I'm good.
I went for the one pager, and I'm good. My room is clean. I rarely lie. That itself is a lie.
I stand up straight with my shoulders back. My penis is immaculate.
That is one of my favorite memes to come out of the modern era, is like the degeneration of philosophical advice. Have you seen that?
No, send that to me.
Oh, I gotta track it down.
And this is definitely not going on YouTube. I don't know, maybe it will.
Yeah, good luck. I spent like 4 hours editing that fiction space that we did. So it always takes longer than you'd expect it would.
Yeah, there's an old Mad TV episode where they do it's The Sopranos but edited for regular TV. And just every 5 seconds they have to cut because he's about to curse or have sex with a prostitute or something. And it's really funny.
So what year would that have been?
Oh, that had to be early 2000s. Probably like 2003, 2004.
Because didn't Mad TV come out in like 1998 or 99 initially? And then they had 2 seasons that were hilarious. I mean, it was early, but this is like before Will Sasso or any of those guys.
And Will Sasso's the guy who plays Tony Soprano. He does a good soprano.
Oh, he's incredible, man. I'm surprised we don't see more of him. I would love to know his story because he's super talented, and I just don't see him anymore.
He's on Young Sheldon, I think.
Okay.
He plays.
I don't know what that is, but
it's a spin-off of The Big Bang Theory.
Okay.
Aristophanes' Revenge really likes it. I've seen a few episodes. It's pretty good. It's like, as wholesome as modern television is going to get these days. Anyway, I figured that, we'll go over the broad strokes and then we can dive into maybe a few of our favorites here.
Sure.
I think one of the strengths of the collection, whereas a weakness in the inverse for Bradbury, is that he doesn't have to build too many characters, and not for very long in Martian Chronicles. I think one of the reasons that I didn't like Fahrenheit 451 is because I didn't really like or attach myself to any of the characters.
You didn't like Guy Montag?
No, I didn't. And I didn't like the guy who memorized all of Plato. And surprisingly, no, I'm not a Guy Montag guy.
You're not a Guy Montag guy. Yeah, no, it was pretty stilted. I liked the world that they lived in more than anything. I liked the way the prose made me feel about living in this world, and how he described the apartment, and how his wife was just like a schizophrenic because of what television had done to her.
Yeah, he's definitely more of an idea man.
Yeah.
But I think he, at least in this collection, he kind of understands where he's strong and where he's weak, and he really leans into his strength. And maybe he's just a better short story writer. That's definitely possible. I haven't read The Illustrated Man or Something Wicked This Way Comes. So
Yeah, I don't like it as much as I like his short stories, Illustrated Man, and I especially don't like Something Wicked This Way Comes, because it's just kind of that quirky carnival fascination.
is it? Okay.
Which I find just, it's whimsical, but I'm over it.
So the grand arc of the story, I'd say, is people are just flooding. Mars becomes like the new Wild West in a lot of ways. So people are just flooding from Earth to go to Mars. They at first they send a few parties out to just explore the planet, and unfortunately, humans bring their own diseases which kill off the native Martian population, which is a really he could have done the bury my heart at Wounded Knee thing, but I think he takes a more subtle approach to how the West was won.
And it's interesting to read about how these aliens are just not that impressed with the people coming in. One of those Three Stooges like comedy bits is when I think it's the second expedition gets there, and they're like, "Hey, we're from Earth," and everybody's too busy or annoyed to give them the time of day, and they just keep leading them, sending them to the next guy, the next guy, the next guy, until they find out that they've actually been relegated to an insane asylum.
Yeah, that's right. They get sent to an insane asylum because all the other Martians are like, these guys are nuts.
Right. Well, and it's interesting because it moves you further into that world, because everybody's telekinetic on Mars. Therefore, their hallucinations are physically manifested. So all the other people in the insane asylum are able to create like blue fire, or change the way they look. They can turn into a mop bucket, and they can turn into like a flame, and all this different stuff. And the doctor just thinks that it's this one captain who's insane, and all of his other crew members are just part of his manifested hallucinations. And it just gets further and further. I mean, you guys have got to read it if you haven't read it. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's the ending made me fucking laugh out loud multiple times. And it's dark.
I really liked Ela, which is the second story, and it's just about a woman who hates her life and her husband, and she's like communicating with this Earthman who comes, and she like falls in love with this dude because they're communicating telepathically, and the husband finds out, and he just goes out and shoots him.
Right. Well, yeah. He stops her from going to the valley where they're supposed to meet, and he's like, "Oh no, the doctor's coming. Just stay in." And
I need you to.
I guess the doctor's not here yet.
Doctor.
I'm gonna go hunting for a little bit.
Yeah.
I'll be back.
Just sport, and like you don't imagine when you're thinking of Mars, you think of little green men, but reading these stories, they could easily just be farmers in Iowa, or the Martians. And they do vary, right? Because there are some that there's no consistency to this. It really is more of a concept album than any sort of tight continuity. There's varied ideas about what Mars could be like without, and there are several contradicting ideas throughout.
And I think that's the part of the reason that I attach so much to it is the conventional presentation of the characters, the Martian characters, of being able to sort of understand where they're coming from. whereas normally it's always an alien intelligence, too vast and destructive to comprehend.
I think my favorite story of the collection is probably either Fire Balloons or the one with the complicated poetic name. Uh,
It's interesting. That's my favorite, and it's Byron.
There will come soft rains.
Oh no, no. And the moon be still as bright, which is
Oh, okay,
the Byron poem, which they actually used in Day of the Triffids.
got
So it's
it.
a little
Okay,
callback.
no, no, no. My favorite is probably There Will Be Soft Rain, or There Will Come Soft Rains, which is a poem from World War I, and it's about the automated house
Oh yeah.
that is just trying to set up for There Will Come Soft Rains. Back on Earth, there has been nuclear war, and the technology has advanced such that like everything is automated, but there's still this nuclear war. So the house that the McClellan family lives in is going through its daily routine of upkeep, of getting everybody ready for breakfast, lunch, dinner. There's Mrs. McClellan. She's like an old woman who needs to be pushed around the house to get enough sunlight, right? And everyone's dead. Everyone's been dead. He tries to open the automated beds that the children sleep in, and he like lifts it up, and just a pile of dust dust comes out and piles onto the floor. A dove comes into the house, and he has to try and destroy it. The house. It's like a giant computer with like a robot arm, right? Destroying the house itself to try and kill this dove. There's a really good Soviet era short film in Russian that is based on this story, and it's incredible. I'll probably link it because it's done really well.
Yeah, I've never seen that. There's two things that stand out in that story for me. It's the burned outlines of children playing in the front
Mm-hmm.
yard on
Yeah,
the house itself, and then at the end when the fire starts and everything's going off, but the voice that's reading the poem is going until the chemical spill and the house burns down.
yeah, it's sad. I think it's either the last or the second to last. It's like it's near the end.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
the second to last in the 1936. The Million Year Picnic is what comes
right.
after this.
Yeah. So yeah, that's probably my favorite one of the collection. So what was yours? The
The
Moonlight.
the moon be still as bright, and that's about the group that comes in, and one of the guys gets possessed by the malevolent spirit of one of the ancient Martians that has since died off, and starts murdering all the other characters, all the
Mm,
other crew members.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's and he goes native. It's
Yeah, and it's on theme in this part of the book because there are multiple themes that run, but also just the telekinetic power and the residual telekinetics of the lost race. I think is really interesting
mm,
because it happens in a couple different ones where there's sort of this. I don't know how to put it, but it's sort of like this residual consciousness of the ancient Martians that comes into play a lot of different times in certain of these stories where they're passing timelines, they're seeing each other in different times, or they're again in your the fire balloons, right? It's the ancient consciousness of Martians that are even before the race that we knew as Martians disappears.
mm.
Is these they've transcended
Yeah, the civilizations build off of the bones of other civilizations.
Yeah. I just find that stuff fascinating. All my favorite Star Trek The Next Generation episodes are written by a guy named Brandon Braga. And all of his stuff are these weird kind of reality bending episodes.
There's also a story where just all the people go back to Earth. The Watchers. They feel so bad that war has come to the West that they give up their life on Mars and sort of return to their deaths on Earth. It's really Bradbury doesn't pull any punches here, as far as the depravity and the just wholesale killing that nuclear war would wreak on humanity.
Yeah, and that's Is that one of the short stories that's like a paragraph long? Because
Yeah.
he does these like short ones occasionally just to kind of shift the timeline, right? So there's like the explorers, then the frontier, then the carpetbaggers, then the old ones, and then the return, which is what you're talking. The come home, come home, come home. I think that's the one you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny too because there's just a giant break in time between it goes from like 2005 to 2026 into the last third of the book.
Yeah, in my version, Rocket Summer is set in January of 1999.
Rocket Summer is such a cool concept.
Yeah, I know, I love it, and I especially love how much of an emphasis he puts on Ohio for all this stuff. Like he mentions,
I think he did that because of Sherwood Anderson, who wrote the short story collection Winesburg, Ohio.
I feel like I've heard you mention this before.
I mean, I talked to Sandbatch about it once, so that's possible. I like Sherwood Anderson, so
Yeah, no, Ohio. He mentions Iowa, Minnesota, and I think one other place, but they're all Midwest, or Illinois, obviously, because he's an Illinois native. I think he's from Peoria. But no, I thought that was interesting.
Peoria
I
is
like
such a random place. I feel like a lot of people are from there, but it's just like in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I had some friends in Peoria, and getting out there was just kind of like this is
Everyone does. I know like 5 people who have either lived in Peoria at one time or know a bunch of people who live there.
And it's not that big of a town, so
No, it's not. So I'm sure that everybody knows each other. But Rocket Summer is the opening vignette of the book, right? And it just describes basically instead of Cape Canaveral, Florida, these rockets are just set up in random places in Ohio. And in the middle of winter, because the rockets burn so much fuel, the fires create a small summer. So all the snow is melted. It's really hot. People walk outside in like regular clothes instead of being bundled up. So really interesting concept. I don't know. It's that kind of whimsy that really draws me in.
Well, I wouldn't even necessarily call that whimsy, but to have that realization, to have that imagination, and to connect with it is what makes this thing so attractive to me on multiple levels.
There's another story shortly after the Earthmen, which is the second expedition one that you were talking about, called the Taxpayer, where like
the Elon Musk. I was gonna raise an Elon Musk, like this is Elon Musk, this crazed.
I deserve to go to Mars. I pay my taxes.
And he's yelling through the chain link fence.
War.
He's yelling through the chain link fence at like the technicians to put him on that rocket. Get me out there. And the last image is him being hauled away in a police car with his face pushed up against the back window, still yelling.
So not every story takes place on Mars. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like half and half.
I think only 3 take place. Right?
On Mars or on Earth?
On Earth is the Rocket Summer, the Taxpayer, and then the House one.
Yeah, you're probably right. But it's the Carnival one could easily just take place on Earth. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that our favorite one, obviously.
Oh yeah, no, I read it just for that. He really doesn't like Americans. He's very much he's almost like a Hicklib in that way.
Yeah,
where he's like, I'm one of the cool ones, and all these other people are boorish and ignorant and unrefined, and he very much sticks it to Americans whenever he gets the chance. Whether it's the third expedition, right? It's third expedition where John Black kills. Fourth expedition. Sorry, because it's the Moonbe's Still and Bright, where Spender is his name, and he kills the other guys because they're boorish and they don't respect the culture, and he's also taken over by an alien.
Yeah,
there's a bunch of Americans come over at the same time, and they make a run of the place.
Yeah, whores and drinking and shooting and all this different stuff.
He really has such a low opinion of his own country. Now I'm kind of glad that they censored his work.
There's that. There's especially that prevalent in the Silent Towns,
Mm.
which is a story after the majority, if not all, of the people have gone home. The Earthlings have gone back to Earth, and it's just this one guy having his run of the place, drinking whatever he wants, and then he hears this phone ringing. So he chases all around this town trying to pick it up, and then realizes that it's probably a woman. Why would a man be calling? Right? Only a woman would be doing this, and where would a woman be? I need to find a list of all the beauty parlors, the most expensive beauty parlors. And sure enough, he calls the biggest one, and a woman's voice picks up. So he goes to find her, and they see her, and she's like 400 pounds and just doing her makeup up to the nines, and it's a terrible job. And she's just eating candy and eating pies and tries to get him to marry her. So he just gets in the car and drives
He just
away.
walks away.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's yeah. He noted woman respecter Ray Bradbury.
This is the biggest body positivity one in here.
There's also what's the one with it's gonna the musicians, right? That one has the concept of the fireman in it before he puts out Fahrenheit 451.
Mm-hmm.
And the firemen are just guys who go around burning the ancient Martian relics.
Yeah, it's an American.
And he's like, yeah, it's like, wouldn't it be? He really was like, I like the idea of firemen being guys with flamethrowers. Let's do that a lot. Wouldn't that be? How ironic! How clever am I? The more I talk about Bradbury, the less I like him. It turns out.
You're starting to turn me too. I'm going to burn these books, dude.
Yeah, no, let's burn them. The other day, just maybe 2 weeks ago, I had a tweet that went viral about banned books, and one of them because it was like this guy, like he showed a stack of all the banned books, and of course it's like a high school reading list,
right?
And it's funny because he actually cropped out Lady Chatterley's Lovers,
right?
Because of course no one's read that. And that one basically is smut.
Yeah,
not really. It's not really. I guess it's smut for the time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when was it written?
It's like
even the
19th century.
Yeah, silly shocking, as Gisela Platon would put it.
But I see what you did there.
You like that?
Yeah. If you didn't get that reference, go back and listen to our episode on Day of the Triffids to find out more. So you gotta shill these things, Johnny.
Yeah,
I'm gonna teach you. I'm gonna teach you up.
I'm taking notes.
But I only bring up my banger tweet because Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451 was on there on the list of banned books, and as you rightly pointed out, it's on the high school reading list, and it's not very good. And
no, it's not. I mean, I had to read it in middle school. I think I was in 7th grade. So, I mean, it's not even high school. They don't even wait for you to pop puberty.
It makes me sad that that's the book he's known for, and this one kind of is like, it's considered a deep cut these days. Like it's famous or whatever, but it's famous for people who read, which is, how many people are there going around?
Well, there's going to be a lot more when you go ahead and listen to the T.R. Hudson Double Dealer Why You Should Be Reading Fiction Space recording.
That's true. You got to put that out. Chop, chop, Ouija.
Yeah. I'm working on it. It's almost done. It'll be done probably tomorrow.
Yeah, he has to edit out all the times I use slurs.
That, and there's just a lot of silence. But that's neither here nor there. I had that realization when you said it, that this is now considered a deep cut. Like, only people in the know about Martian Chronicles, but it's so vastly superior to his other stuff, in my opinion.
And it's also, it's head and shoulders above the rest, but because it was never banned from a high school library, and it can be reissued every year and be put under a cute little banner with a lot of other trite nonsense, it gets to... Well, a lot of other trade nonsense and Slaughterhouse-Five.
Did you ever read? I think I've asked you this question before, so apologies. C.S. Lewis's Space Trilogy.
Yeah, yeah. I did an episode with Zero HP Lovecraft on that
Oh,
hideous
okay.
strength.
Okay. I wish you'd done the first Out of a Silent Planet. Like that's my favorite one. I like that hideous strength, but for different reasons. And of course, Mr. Baltitude. But I just think the world that was created in Out of a Silent Planet is so much more attractive, certainly
Maybe
than Paralandra. Like Paralandra's way out there. That's the only book in that series that I really struggled with for some reason.
maybe I'll ping him again and ask him. Why is it every time that I have you on, I just start talking logistics? Yeah.
Because I love to talk logistics. I think it's really interesting.
Anyway, so yeah, I find it difficult to come to grips with the fact that Bradbury is most known for his most nonsensical work. That's not nonsense, but it's definitely like he had a decent idea, and then it just kind of remained an idea.
You talking about Martian Chronicles?
No, no, no. I'm talking about Fahrenheit 451.
Oh
Martian
yeah,
Chronicles, I think is pretty fully fleshed out.
sure.
I
Yeah,
think
it's just a little more. I don't want to say erroneous, but it's just it's the concept is so out there that it feels a bit more unfinished. But I think you're right, especially after they get away. Like if you've ever seen the movie from like 1962, they end the movie on the banks of the river where everybody's sputtering out the words of books they've memorized, and that's like the middle of the book. The rest of that book is pretty forgettable. I mean, the buildup is pretty good, but the payoff is just nonsense. The only thing I really recall is his description of the high altitude bombers. And I always thought that was pretty interesting. But again, it's like I like that in concept more than I like the actual prose, right? I would never recommend we do an episode of Canon Fodder on, oh shit, look at that. He's gone, folks. So that's the episode, ladies and gentlemen. I guess he's gone, and that's that. The Martian Chronicles, one of my favorite Bradbury pieces. And you should definitely read it because it's a bunch of short stories of varying lengths. If I were to make one omission, it would be The House of Usher, or Usher 2, as I believe the title is. So check it out. Go and buy it. I think the audiobook is on YouTube too. I'm not entirely sure, but you could definitely find it on BitChute if you dare brave that UI. Anyway, I'm going to quick check Twitter and make sure that TR is doing okay, that his house didn't catch fire. It's still recording. So I'm hoping all this stuff will get used somewhere, somehow. Maybe it'll get stored privately or on my computer. It's really hot in this room. I'm in the HARP heat dome. It's terrible. I keep trying to position this microphone so those pops aren't so aggressive, but it's not working, obviously. I'm trying to think if there's one more story that I could talk about while he's gone. I like the luggage store, but I just like that because it's a transitional piece, right? There are some of these stories that are really good because they're transitional pieces. They're meant to carry you from one aspect of the story to the other. Excuse me. To give you some context for the next story in a very, I don't want to say side-handed, in a very subtle way. So it appears like a standalone short story, but you're actually reading the context for the next few stories, which is just the construct of this thing is really interesting to me, and I would love to pay homage to it in some way. And by that I mean I'd like to steal it, make it better, and make it work for me. That's what I want. Naming of names, Usher 2, the old ones. I like the old ones. There are these aspects of, or these certain stories that will use the ancient disembodied consciousness of the civilization, will start to fill in and create illusions to deceive Earthmen and women. And it's not even necessarily malevolent. Sometimes it takes a benevolent appearance or serves a benevolent purpose. But the reason it becomes or is perceived as evil or malevolent is because it's a lie. It's an illusion, right? So maybe the Martian morality structure is a little bit different. It's good. It's a very good publication, and I really enjoy it. And like I said, I give this one as a gift as well occasionally. Not so much anymore because it's harder to find. And this is one, though, that I will always buy when I find it at a thrift store. Well, that happens a lot. I give used copies as gifts because I'm a cheapskate. But this is a book that I will always buy if it's at like the Salvation Army or I don't know, some of the regional type stores when I'm on the road. I'll always go and check and see. And that's where I find most of my Gulag archipelagos, honestly. There was like a 6-month period where I was finding the Gulag archipelago in like those kind of one-off thrift stores that have no real. I think I found one in like Hanover, Pennsylvania once, and I found one in Clinton or Oak Ridge, Tennessee.
I'm back.
Hey, what's going on, man? I've been holding it down.
We're gonna have to do so much editing.
No, I tried to stay on topic on that, so there will be some editing there. Send me the file, dude. I'll do it.
No, I got it. I use CapCut, which is free.
I don't understand why you keep fighting for the edit, which is the strangest thing to fight for. Most of the people I know are just trying to pawn off. How much are you an hour to edit things? Can I send stuff to you that I don't want to do?
No, mostly to be completely honest, I don't really edit all that much unless totally necessary. Okay. And also I just don't want to burden anybody.
Okay.
I mean, you're expensive. You're $800 just to get you on the phone.
So you're not at the point where you're like editing 2 words that sound the same on the consonant to get them to merge?
No.
You know what I'm saying? So you're not looking at the sound wave to like find where the T sounds like the other T so that you can.
No, that sounds hard.
It's not. Once you get it down, it's really easy. I mean,
yeah,
I did it to you.
It sounds tedious.
It is tedious. I did it to you today. It's simple. I like to cut out the uhs and ums, and
I have a lot of those.
Well, I've got a lot of those too, especially as I'm without a script and you're just formulating a clear and concise statement. Of course, it's going to be full of long pauses.
Give me 1 sec. Sorry.
Yeah.
Damn dog. Anyway, so we've got fucking hell. You know, I might just scrap this, and we can just do this another time.
No, this is great. It'll be a great 20-minute episode when the edit is done.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this to you. I'm gonna let you take care of this, John.
I'd be happy to. Yeah, I basically, when you were gone for that 10 minutes, I just recommended this piece to everyone who's got time to read it. It's really simple. Almost as simple as The Double Dealer, issue 13, which we have heard is the best.
It is
of
the
all
best.
The issues.
Yes, it's amazing what we've done. We've turned enemies into fans. But yes, yeah. No. What story is that? Continue.
No, I was saying that the publication as a whole, the Martian Chronicles. This is one that I buy every time I find it in a thrift store. My retail therapy is thrift stores.
That's the most American.
You've heard this term, right?
No, I haven't.
Really? No, it's people who have problems spending money. Like people go shopping too much, and they invented this term called retail therapy, and I think it's fucking disgusting. But I use it.
It's awful. That's the worst thing I've ever heard.
But anyway, so if you go to the thrift store just to see what's in the book section, I mean, it's a crapshoot. It's like hunting, right? It's like the thrill of the hunt is better than anything.
Well, so I have a used bookstore. It's Books A Million, right? So that is at least a little bit more catered. So if I go to like Goodwill, right, I'm gonna find so much crap. I did find the complete William Shakespeare in like a nice volume at a Goodwill.
Yeah, and I was going to say, like, I find Salinger's 9 Stories, The Martian Chronicles, and Gulag Archipelago. I had, like, a 6-month run where I was finding Gulag Archipelago in, like, I was on the road, too.
Everybody cleaned their room, and then...
and they just realized I'm never going to read this shit, so I'm getting rid of it. This doesn't make me happy.
I cleaned my room. Why do I need to learn about the Gulag?
No, but yeah, I mean, I enjoy going in there. The only problem with like the thrift store, if there's a couple of them, Savers. What's the one in fucking Midtown? It doesn't matter. The larger chains, Goodwill, they don't categorize their books.
No, they don't. It's literally just a bin,
Right.
or like
So
a shelf in the corner.
right. So you're gonna go there and you just have to turn your head. I mean, you're gonna walk out of there with a neck injury, but just to see what they have, and you just have to kind of scan. Stay away from the hardcovers because the hardcovers are all like her story.
Oh yeah,
Hillary
or
Clinton or George
yeah,
W.
yeah, or
Bush.
it's like Adios America by Ann Coulter,
Yep.
or it's or
The Savage Nation by Michael Savage.
Al Franken
Yep.
tells it like it is.
Yeah. Just pure word count drivel. But
Or
yeah, go.
Coming Home by Joe Biden, or I'm Gay by John Cinder. Yeah.
That was a dig. That was an archaeological dig right there. Yeah. So go to the soft covers. I don't know. Do what you want. It's your life. But if you're gonna do anything with it, buy the Martian Chronicles and read it at least once, and then you can just return it and say this was shit. But it's a good piece, and like I said, almost as good as Double Dealer issue 13.
Issue 13 is the best one yet, though it doesn't contain any work by me, which is surprising that it can be the best without my work.
What happened there? Why didn't you turn anything in?
Dude, I've been busy.
I get it. I've been busy too, but I still made time. Of course, I was late.
Yeah, I don't want to hear anything from you. I'm writing 2 novels and I have a podcast.
How do you write 2 novels at the same time? How do you separate those mind states?
Well, you see, I have a bicameral mind.
Okay. Seriously though, how do you separate those mind states?
I've got them plotted out more or less.
Okay.
I kind of it's just about. Well, all right, so it's the one Space Marine book I want to get out first because it's a crowd pleaser.
It's an entertainment.
Yes, it is an entertainment, definitely. And my other one, which is about an FBI agent infiltrating an Orthodox church to see the radicalized young incels. That one's going to be kind of a Catholic novel, So I really do love Graham Greene, and I wanna mirror my quote unquote career after his.
Don't you feel, well, I guess with something like that, if you were writing 2 serious novels, then it would make sense that you couldn't do them at the same time. But you don't feel that the spirit of the piece, of each piece, separate spirits will
No, there's no cross pollination there. I've had the Space Marine book on ice for years.
Okay, yeah.
I've had it figured out for forever, and I just it wasn't time to write it down yet. Whereas the Orthodox one, the FBI informant one, is just such a fresh idea that I just have to get it down. So it's 2 modes of being.
Sure. What are you aiming for page count wise for the Space Marine?
That one's actually going to be probably my longest work. I've got like 30 chapters, so probably like 90,000 words.
Oh wow, okay, yeah, that's legit, man.
But
epic at 150,000 is an epic. That's
yeah, I could never. That feels like just page count. Like it just feels like you're writing for page count.
You could, but like an epic, they just don't. I mean, they're all doing ancient Viking mushrooms, or whatever their secret alchemic traditions were to get to a page count like that. There's just no stopping it. You're not going to do illustrations, right, for the Space Marine thing?
I doubt it. I've never really thought about doing that. It's an unfortunate. Like I would definitely ask Shimmy to do it if I thought that I could justify the cost. If I thought that I'd sell enough to justify putting in some pretty good art like that. I'll definitely have him do my cover though.
And it's obviously adventure fiction, right?
Did I lose my internet again?
Testing 1 2 3.
Hello.
Testing
Yes.
1 2 3.
I can hear you.
Okay.
This is such a shit show. I'm just gonna call this Canon Fodder episode 38. Fuck you.
Fuck
Like,
you, Ray Bradbury.
fuck you and the rocket you rode in on.
I actually like that a lot. I think you should do that. Yeah, you want to end it? It's
Yeah, let's
21,
go.
2109.
Yeah, I want to go see an old man get beat up by a slightly less old man.
Yeah, well, thanks everyone for
All
joining
right.
us. This has
If
been Canon Fodder.
if you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to buy issue 13 of the Double Dealer magazine. It is the best one yet. You can become a paid subscriber over at our Substack, thedoubledealer.substack.com. I have 2 books you can read at your leisure. John, why don't you tell the people what you have, and we'll get out of here with our dignity intact.
I'm in the issue 13, and I'm working on something that you'll hear about later.
Well, thank you very much for listening. I am so sorry. I don't know how to end podcasts, so we'll just say insert ending here.